Hello, I'm Mark Price. I'd like to talk to you today about the chicken and the pig. There was a family that lived deep, deep, deep into the woods in Kentucky, way deep in the woods. I think they call it the hollers, way deep in the woods of Kentucky, and they'd really never been to a big city. And one day they decided, let's go on a family trip. And so they went all the way to New York City. And they were amazed by the skyscrapers, the busy traffic. They were amazed by most everything. But one of the things that amazed them the most was the elevator. They were in one of the big buildings and they were standing in front of an elevator. They'd never seen one before. And they saw this older woman get into the elevator, or first push the button, the doors open, she gets in, the doors close, and she's gone. And then a few minutes later, the doors open again, and a 20-year-old beautiful woman comes out. And the son says, Dad, what happened? What happened? I don't understand. And the father said, I have no idea, but go get your mother. I like that one. It's good. Miracles can happen. So the gospel today is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 21 through 29. Jesus said to his disciples, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not drive out demons in your name? Did we not do mighty deeds in your name? Then I will declare to them solemnly, I never knew you. Depart from me, you evildoers. Everyone who listens to these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house, but it did not collapse. It had been set solidly on rock. And everyone who listens to these words of mine but does not act on them will be like the fool who built his house on sand. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house, and it collapsed and was completely ruined. When Jesus finished these words, the crowds were astonished at his teachings, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as their scribes. The gospel of the Lord. So what's Jesus saying? This is a pretty strong gospel, because really what it's saying is, you can go through all the motions of a follower of God through Jesus. You can prophesy in his name. You can speak in his name. You can do great deeds in his name. You can, to your friends, look as if I'm a follower of, a believer in. But you get to that final judgment and Jesus says, away from me, you evildoer, I never knew you. Wow. So those people who are like me, who preach or talk or try to raise people up, we can look to the world as if maybe we're a person who really believes, but do we? What does it take to really believe? Jesus tells us, do what the Father says. What does the Father say? The Father says, enter into a relationship with me. Enter into a relationship with me. What this is saying is, you can go through all the motions you want, but if you're not in a relationship with me, if you're not committed in this relationship with God through Christ, then it's all for naught. You're just going through the motions. It's a facade, and that's not what we're called to do. There's the old story of the chicken and the pig, and what their involvement is in bringing us a ham and egg breakfast. To bring us that ham and egg breakfast, the chicken's involved providing the egg, but the pig, to give us the ham, he's sort of committed. We're called to be in a committed relationship with God through Christ. And it's that relationship, it's that deep-seated, committed relationship that makes the difference. You see, in our world, a lot of us will go through motions and we're trying to do things. But what we have to do is actually rise above that and commit ourselves to doing it. Now, this is a commitment that we have with God through Christ. So when we say we believe, when we say the sinner's prayer and we say, yes, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God and he died for me, that's good. But then we have to go to that next step and develop that personal relationship with him. Unless we have that personal relationship, that committed relationship between us and Christ, there is no relationship. And Jesus on Judgment Day tells us in the gospel, he'll say, I never knew you. Yeah, you were doing things in my name. Yes, you were making the world believe that you were a follower, but you never knew me, and I never knew you. And by the way, this same sort of commitment toward relationship is true not only with God through Christ, but in our own personal lives. When we're in relationships, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever kind of relationship it is with each other, whether it's a married relationship, family relationship, or as I say, two people going together, there has to be a commitment. If there's not a commitment, then you aren't fully engaged in the relationship. And both will end in a way that one will say to the other, I never really knew you. Why? Because we never allowed ourselves to be known. We didn't commit ourselves. Consequently, we did not allow ourselves to be exposed for who we really are, so the person really didn't have a chance to get to know us. Jesus is saying that. You can go through the motions just like you can in a relationship on the earth, but if you're not committed to that relationship with people on the earth or with God through Jesus, then it's easy for the other to say, I never knew you. And that's something we do not want to hear when we get to heaven. When we get to heaven, for those of us who are people of faith, we want to hear more than anything, I knew you. Come on in, my good and faithful servant. That commitment's important. A few reflections ago, I talked about the gospel that said we had to be like little children. And I quoted Bishop Fulton Sheen, who said maybe heaven's full of a bunch of nurseries. Well, if this is true and it really is about commitment, and we have to have the commitment of a pig, maybe heaven also has a bunch of pigsties. Amen? This is Mark Price. Thanks for listening.